Hi, I just want to explain a method that I use in my classes called rhythm states. It's kind of a rip-off of a couple of other different versions. The idea is to use words instead of ta, ti, tiri, tiri. For young children, that's fine if you choose to do that. I'm not an early childhood music expert, so whatever your district uses is really okay. I started teaching older students many years ago, and I found just attaching words to rhythms made a big difference. So I just kind of made a standardization of it, that's all. So I use names of states, and you'll see up here we have quarter notes, and it's Maine, 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 Maine. Really important that the duration of sound is there, so that you can understand the difference between eighth notes and quarter notes is duration of sound. So something lands on the beat. If it's quite short, a 16th, it could be on the beat, or an eighth can be on the beat, or a quarter can be on the beat. The idea is the duration of sound, because that's what rhythm is. And then U-tah, 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 U-tah. And you'll notice the note lengths correspond to what you would see in the graphic display in GarageBand or Logic Pro or others. Mi-ssi-ssi-ppi, Mi-ssi-ssi-ppi, Mi-ssi-ssi-ppi. So I will demonstrate to students and show them this, which I will give you this little graphic and some other graphics, so that what happens on the beat is absolutely there on the beat, and that something can also happen exactly halfway between the beat, and then we get to another beat. I do the old display where I go in front of the room and say this is a whole note, and then if you divide the note in half, you get a half note, and each one of these represents one half of the whole, and then quarter note is to take it and then fill in the half note, and then you get 4 quarters. And now the hard part really is, how are we dealing with the subdivision of the quarter? This is the thing that little kids really have a hard time understanding, is that what you're talking about is a quarter of the whole, and it's just a cognitive issue. Their brains are not quite as developed. For those of you who teach young children and you really want to get going, I understand that whole notes and half notes are things that we teach, because when we're teaching instruments, like band instruments or stringed instruments, we want students to get good sound. So we have long sustained tones, which is why we count quarter notes, we have whole notes and half notes, so we get longer, sustained, beautiful sound. My experience has been, and again, I'm not an expert, so take it with a grain of salt. Kids, by the time you go 1, 2, 3, they're already gone. They don't know what a whole note is. They can't count to 4. So where the action happens, especially in drums, is actually on the beat and between the beats. So I start kids right away. I mean, they understand the concept of this is a whole, and if you put 4 of these across the length, you're going to get 4 beats, and that's a whole, one whole measure. But the action really happens on the beat and between the beat. So this is where I start with them to do that. So that's the first part of rhythmic states, is explaining and getting the graphic of how it's divided. You could do that in a lot of different ways. The next thing I do is we'll follow the bouncing mouse. So it'll be Maine, U-tah, Maine, U-tah, Mi-ssi-ssi-ppi, U-tah, Mi-ssi-ssi-ppi, U-tah, Maine, U-tah, Maine. And I do that with them. And you'll notice that the mouse or the finger, where if you're pointing to the screen, has to move before the beat, so their eye has a chance to get there. Maine, U-tah, Maine, Mi-ssi-ssi-ppi, U-tah, Maine, U-tah, like that. And then the next step is to then remove the words and do this without the words and get them to do that. Maine, U-tah, Maine, U-tah, Mi-ssi-ssi-ppi, 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 U-tah, Maine. And please make sure they're getting a nice long Maine. They're not just going Maine, U-tah, Maine, because that's not a Maine, is it? That's U, or Mi, of Mississippi. All right, let's take it one step further. If you choose to, which I do with my more advanced classes, is to have them understand that the combination of, if I start with just 1/8, right? What if I started with an eighth and I added instead 2/16? What do I get? Well, you have the U of Utah, right? That's the first part of the eighth, the U. And then what do you get? Sippi. U-ssi-ppi, 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 U-ssi-ppi. And if I do it the other way around, then I start with 2/16. What do I get? Right? If you need note heads, you can have it. Right? What do you get? Mi-ssi-tah, Mi-ssi-tah, Mi-ssi-tah. Good. And for those of you interested in triplets, Florida doesn't work because they say Florida, 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 especially up here in the Northeast. In New York, you get kids going Florida. No, Arkansas, 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 Arkansas. And it's a really good one because Arkansas is something you can aim for that triplet at the beginning. So there's a whole series of rhythm states and reading rhythms and rhythm states exercises from my book. I just want to give that to you, and I will put all of this information in here. And what's this fancy, lovely little thing here is the iPivo annotator. It's free. You can download it for free. That's where I'm getting all these cool tools from that I can do annotations and markup. iPivo annotator. I'll put it in the courseware. Thanks.